I recently evaluated a pet services business that we were looking at buying. And throughout the evaluation process, we identified 4 things that we thought would help massively grow the business, and they're applicable to any business. So today I'm going to share with you what those 4 key takeaways were and how they can apply to your business. My name is Caden Houston. For the last 2 years, I've been a digital marketing agency owner. We decided recently that we did not want to scale the marketing agency as I want to get into M&A and private equity later on down the line. And so I need proof that I can do what I say I want to do. And so we're looking at acquiring some businesses or starting a quote boring business in like the home services sector. That's kind of the area that I'm looking at specializing in when I get into M&A and private equity. And so that's what we're looking at right now. So we've been evaluating these businesses and we came across one that was in the pet services industry. Now I'm going to try to keep this somewhat basic in terms of the details I give about the company because there's some stuff I can't share because I was under NDA as we were evaluating it. But I can give you some general examples as well as talk about what we thought we could do for the business. And so this was a pet services company that was doing like dog daycare, dog boarding, and dog grooming, and they had done some dog training in the past. And so when we started looking at the business, we identified 4 things that we thought would help massively grow the business. So the first thing that we identified was that we thought that they were mispriced. So this was a business that was more than 10 years old, and they hadn't really updated pricing. They had done a little bit of a pricing raise, but they weren't really keeping up with inflation. And the other thing was that the services they did raise the price on were the services that were in lower demand. So they were at about 40 or 50% capacity with the services that they raised the price on, and they had other services that they were getting booked out a lot farther in advance that they hadn't raised the price on. And so let me tell you why we thought this was so important. So this was a business that had a low average transaction value, around like $50 or $100. So for the purpose of this example, we'll go with a $50 transaction value. That was the average that a customer would spend when they came in the door. And so they were running about 10% net margins. And so on $50, they were only making $5 net when a customer came in and spent money there. The reason why we got so excited about the ability to pull on this pricing lever was that if we were able to add even $2 or $3, that would be a massive increase in actual net profit that would drop straight to the bottom line. So every dollar that we added would increase the profit by plus 20%. So if we got this to $8, so we went from $50 spent and $5 net to $53 spent and $8 net. And remember that pricing, when nothing else changes, this pricing drops straight to the bottom line. So when we add $3 to the pricing, that drops straight to the bottom line because we don't have any more operating costs. And so if we were able to take that to $53 and $8 net, that would be a 60% increase in net profit. And so when we saw that, we got super excited. So when you have a business that is a low transaction value like this, you have $20, $50, $100, having these small increases in pricing can have a huge effect on the profit of the business. That's why you see a lot of restaurants will have prices like $16.99, $16.79, because that, with a restaurant, they're very similar. They might run 10% net margins. And so of that $16, they're making about $1.60 in net profit. And so when you add that 99 cents on there, that drops straight to the bottom line. And most of the time it has absolutely zero impact on sales. So we do the exact same number of sales and that 99 cents just drops straight to the bottom line. And we go from making $1.60 per transaction to $2.59, which again is a massive increase in profit. So that was the first thing that we identified. The second thing that we identified that we thought we could change, right, a little number 2, was that they were having a hard time getting staffing on high margin services. So we had like I said, they were doing boarding, daycare, grooming, and then they had done some training in the past. And I wanted to bring back training. And so in the area, groomers were getting paid $17 or $18 an hour. So super low wage, barely above minimum wage in the area. And it was the same thing with trainers. Petco was paying $15, $16, $17 per trainer. And nobody could get trainers or groomers. And so what I wanted to do was let's bump this and make it the most attractive opportunity in the area so that we get more potential candidates, we have more good people to pick from. And so I wanted to go somewhere in the neighborhood of $20, maybe $22 an hour for our candidates. And that would be a massive pricing increase. But the thing was that those services were super high margin. So we had 70 to 80% gross margins on those services, and we'd make a couple $100,000 a year for each person we brought in. And so we thought this was a trade that we would absolutely be willing to make, and it would allow us to increase the number of qualified candidates that we were getting to come into the business. And again, if we had something that was making, call it $150K to $200K per year per qualified or per employee that we had on that service. So taking this wage and paying somebody 40 grand of that to make 200 when we had 80% gross margins, which would be $160,000 that we made, and then we take out the 40, so we'd net $120,000 on that employee. We were certainly willing to pay more aggressively and pay much better than everybody else in the area. That's why it's super helpful to have not just your gross revenue and your gross profit and your net profit, all those numbers, but also have those numbers split out by function, by service, and by employee in the business. That way we can see what kind of trade we're making when we bring in a new employee and how much we're adding in gross revenue to the business. The third thing that we identified was that we didn't really feel like they had any front end of the business or any rebooking. So this one was a little bit tough to tell without operating the business, because obviously we were just doing diligence. But from all the conversations we had, we kind of got the feeling that people were kind of just, they were coming in randomly. The business was being used as a service, there's nothing wrong with that. But they had no solidified sales process that introduced people to the business and then systematically brought them back to continue to spend money with the business over and over again. And so this front end was the reason that I wanted to bring back training and puppy training specifically, because what do you need when you get a puppy? You need them to get trained. And so we wanted to train the puppies, or train the younger dogs in general. And then after they get training, what do those dogs need throughout the rest of their life? They need grooming. They might need daycare sometimes when their owners go to work, or they might need boarding when their owners go on vacation. And so this training right here, not only would we make pretty good money on the training classes, but that would also allow us a front end that would flow into the rest of the services and would create something that could introduce people to the business. They could have a great experience with us, and then that could naturally flow into the next services we offered. And there was two parts to that. So one was training to the other services. And then the other thing was within their grooming system, we weren't sure that they were talking to every customer and rebooking them at the end of each appointment. And so people were just calling, and they would book their next appointment whenever they felt like it. And so what we wanted to do was institute something called BAMFAM, which this is not mine. This comes from, I first heard it from Alex Hormozi, but it comes from Sharon Srivatsa, who is the president of ACQ. So he talks about BAMFAM, and this stands for book a meeting from a meeting. And so all this means is just nobody leaves the business without knowing when the next time they're going to talk to you is. And so at the end of every grooming appointment, just the same as when you go to the dentist or you go to really any medical service, usually after you're done being treated, they say, hey, when is the next time you want to come in and get your teeth cleaned or get this or that done? And so we wanted to institute that same exact process into this business to get more people rebooking and extend customer lifetime value. And so at the end of every grooming session, the groomer or the front desk person or the groomer would say, hey, we want you to come in again in 4, 6, or 8 weeks or whatever the optimal time would be. And that would allow us to get 100% of customers, or at least a much higher clip, much higher percentage of customers to rebook and come back over and over again, creating more demand for the grooming services. We could then pay better to bring in more groomers and then get more demand and pay better and get more demand and pay better. Just virtuous cycle. So that was the third thing. And then the fourth thing that we recognized, this would have been one of the easiest to fix and also one of the most obvious, is just that they had no online marketing presence. Again, this was a business that was 10 plus years old. And so they didn't have anything like Google PPC ads, Google search ads. They had no meta ads that were driving traffic or driving leads or even just driving brand awareness. They had really no online presence at all. And so this was something that we could have implemented, and just by showing up on the first page of Google, buying that traffic with Google PPC, and having some basic brand awareness, especially with the training, we could have massively increased the revenue, and that was just something that had never been done before. And obviously with my background, I've been in marketing been running a marketing company for 2 years, and so this was something that would have been a super easy lift, not operationally complex at all, and we could have boosted the revenue. So recapping, we had 4 things that we identified. The first thing was pricing. We wanted to go through and update pricing. The second thing was, it's been 5 minutes and I already forgot. The second thing was recruiting, getting staff in. And we thought that the position was being underpaid for, or the 2 positions were being underpaid for in the current market based on how much we were going to make from them. The third thing was they had no front end and no rebooking. So we wanted to implement BAMFAM. And then the fourth thing that we wanted to do was just do a basic lift through social ads, online ads. And so that would have been the 4 things that we did to help grow this business. Unfortunately, we didn't end up going through with the deal for a completely different reason. The deal didn't end up going through. And so I wanted to make this because I thought that the lessons that we learned along the way would still be valuable. I thought about doing these types of breakdowns for other businesses just for free, just because I love talking business and I want to get better at the stuff. Like I said, my goal is to have a private equity office and focus in these kind of consumer and retail services, home service sector, brick and mortar retail, that kind of thing. And so if this is something that you'd be interested in, is having me and my team break down your business in this exact same way, I'm not sure whether I'll do it or not, but if we get a lot of interest, you can leave a comment below and let us know if you would be interested in that kind of thing, and we might spin it up. Other than that, appreciate you watching this, and we'll see you later.